Hey everybody, this is Frank Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report. I was reading an interesting article and I thought, you know what, I got to share some of this information because it covers the political ironies that are out there and a lot of the information that's many believe to be held true, which aren't. And you can look at different venues, different avenues. If you go into history, American history is American history as interpreted by an individual that could have a certain persuasion, may see history from a different perspective. It's amazing when you have information and you look at a Republican or a Democrat and they both will tell you the truth, but in their manner. And it talked about other things like Jefferson. I don't know how many people know this, but Jefferson, he was quoted saying, "We hold these truths as being self-evident that all men are created equal." Well, if you're going to say that, and if it's going to be true, should he have been a slave owner, of which he was? One of the most ardent abolitionists was Alexander Hamilton. Yet, he owned slaves. Duplicity, irony, isn't it? In 1824, there was an election. It was decided by the House of Representatives because nobody won. And if you go back to 1824, that's when we had a two-party system that was essentially one party. And I just shared something about mental slavery. And many people are in a mental slavery thinking they are truly two different parties, and they're really not. Some of the other interesting stuff, if you look at Andrew Jackson, slave owner, he was a Democrat. Yet Democrats try to sell themselves as the party for the African Americans. And some may be, but if you look at a lot of the cities, Chicago, for example, has been run by Democrats for a long time. Are they any better off? And I think that's what Kane was trying to communicate when he was demonized out there. Democratic Party was anti-bank, anti-oligarchs. That's how Jackson's platform, class rights platform, which was essentially is not what we see as a Democrat Party today. It's more of what we view as the Tea Party. Martin Van Buren was a Democrat. He created the first concentration camps for Cherokees. A lot of people don't realize that we, in the United States, had our first concentration camp back in 1838 with the Cherokee Indians. Lincoln didn't create the Republican Party. I think most people know that. He was their first candidate, and it was an infusion of different parties, but he wasn't the first one. The Confederate general, Stonewall Jackson, he sided with the Southern cause, which may surprise many of you. The Southern cause which essentially led him to free his slaves. What else we got out there? All kinds of interesting stuff. Woodrow Wilson, who was a Democrat, he ran on anti-collectivism, limited government, anti-monopoly, anti-banks. Yet this idiot is the one that went out and started essentially the Federal Reserve, which we know now is the funding of the welfare state. It was passed, what was it, in like a December with 3 people in the Senate. Not sure how that passed. And the irony behind the Federal Reserve is that you have in, I forget which region it is, on the board, an individual that is from, I believe, Turkey, the guy that owns Chobani Yogurt, and I don't even think he's a citizen yet. Yet he's dictating our financial policy via the Federal Reserve. Wilson was reelected saying, hey, I'm going to keep us out of the war. How long did that last with World War I? And he really wanted us to go into that war. It came out basically. Same time with Roosevelt. He was the greatest spending administration. A lot of people sit there and think that Roosevelt, with his New Deal, was the greatest stimulus and spending program out there. But a lot of people will say, no, in 1939, we started going a lot stronger. He campaigned to keep us out of war. How did that go? It didn't go too well. And some conspiracy people will say that he actually wanted us in the war. It was funny. I don't know how they got caught on this in the article. They started talking about the men of the year for Time magazine, and which we all know was Adolf in 38, but Stalin in 39 was man of the year, and again in 42. They talked about the anti-wars. Wars under anti-democrats took about 93 years, or 46.5% led to 625 deaths since 1864. Wars under pro-war Republican Party, there's been 107 years, 53.5%, and only 12,000 deaths. In 1964, the Civil Rights Act was basically 80% of the Republicans sponsored it, were for it. Democrats only 69%. Nixon, Watergate. He ran on a campaign of law and order. And we all know about his secret plan. He had a secret plan to exit Vietnam, yet he immediately started bombing them. Ronald Reagan, post-war federal deficit, 186% increase under Ronald Reagan. Believe it or not. Super predators, young black men are super predators. Who do you think said that? Do you think it was Trump? No, it was actually Hillary Clinton in 96. Who put the most black men in jail? Bill Clinton, under his 1994 Violent Crime Control Act. Who cut welfare the most? Bill Clinton. Helped him out there. George Bush, his platform, smaller, less invasive government, lower taxes, no foreign wars. That didn't go too well with George Bush, did it? And what we're showing is the irony, the duplicity with these guys, how they say one thing and they do another. One thing that really drives me crazy is this talk about Nobel Peace Prize. And I'm doing a forum, I hope, with Salty Dog. She's got over 50,000 followers on Twitter. She does a lot of national stuff, and she's in the Suncoast area. And we might, we're arranging so that we can go to Northport on a radio station, invite public in there, and have a conversation and do it live via her platforms and mine. And she's an ardent Trump supporter. I voted for Trump, but I hold him accountable for certain actions. And she's one of these people, like many Democrats have, where their candidate can do no wrong. Nobel Prize. Don't think it should have gone to Brock. I don't even know if he was president when he first got it. I think he was elected and he was on his way. Now they're talking about a Nobel for Donald. And I said, isn't it ironic? We, the United States, are supplying the intelligence, the munitions, and everything. And I believe yesterday we reported forces on the ground in Yemen. These bombings, just a week before, I think it was a week before the chemical attack in Syria, killed kids and a bride at a wedding party. Yet they want to give them a peace prize for North Korea. I'm just one that thinks that somebody that gets a peace prize, a Nobel Peace Prize, should be someone that works their life and has a positive impact on peace. Not that they can go out in one situation, create peace, and in the next situation, bomb the hell out of a country. If you look at Barack Obama, if you look at his 8 years, 50,000 strikes in Afghanistan. How peaceful is that? Pakistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Syria. How about the unofficial attacks over in Ukraine, Sudan, Niger, Cameroon, Uganda? 3,000 drone deaths. So how is that worthy of a Nobel Peace Prize? And again, Trump's doing the same thing. And it doesn't make sense. Donald Trump went out and he campaigned for peace talks and de-escalation with Russia. Yet, because of this whole made-up Russia dossier thing, he seems to be taking a more strident, aggressive approach with them. He sent 164 missiles into Syria, Russia's ally, killed some Russian residents that were there working. Now, they were on the ground, and they basically were doing a little bit more than peaceful work there. The irony is that behind those attacks, you had Rand Paul and someone like Tucker Carlson saying, wait a second, there's nothing proven. We don't know if it was the white helmets who had their funding cut off yesterday from the United States. And we don't know who did it, yet we went in and bombed. Then it came out that one of the kids that was in the video said, hey, I was just going in the hospital, they grabbed me and started throwing water on my face. And yet, the people that advocated these attacks are people like Fareed Zakaria, who's on the left, Rachel Maddow, many of the MSM, Mother Jones. Basically, they came out that 22% of the GOP supported the Syrian attacks. In 2013, 86% supported the same strikes in 2017. We have a lot of hawks. Lindsey Graham. A lot of these guys are controlled by the industrial war complex. You know, Republicans like Leslie Graham or these MSMs or these Mad Owls on the left out there, they have no problem going in and attacking and possibly starting a war because their kids aren't going to go fight it. They're not going to be damaged by it. Ivanka is not going to grab a gun and go fight it. It's us, the common folks, that are going to die for these guys' causes. It ain't what you know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.